Hello, I'm Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Our focus this week is education in the Joplin School District. And joining me is Dr. C.J. Huff, the Joplin School Superintendent. Thank you for being here today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We haven't had a chance to visit for a while, so I thought you're more than halfway through this current school year.
Yes.
It'd be a good chance to kind of touch base and find out how things are going. And I guess, how do you feel? We're more than halfway through this academic year.
It's been another great school year, and this year just seems to be flying by very, very fast. Very, very fortunate, as we talked earlier, not having any snow days, so that seems to keep things moving at a pretty quick pace. So it's been an excellent school year. Nice to get the majority of the construction behind us and start focusing in on the important work we're supposed to be doing, which is educating kids. And faculty and staff have been doing a fantastic job over the last 3 or 4 years under some pretty intense circumstances to get us where we are today. And really proud of where we come, and excited for what we have in store for our kids going forward.
And you've had some milestones this year in terms of construction. The high school now, people have settled in. They have their home, all except for the auditorium section. It's ready to go.
Yeah, and I think the high school move, I think, represented our 18th move over the last 3 years, and we're glad to finally get settled in. The Performing Arts Center still on schedule. Looks like completion. Hopefully we'll get our occupancy permit around March 1st, and shortly thereafter be able to start having classes on that end of the building. So we're really excited about opening up that facility. I think in April, I don't have the date, but people need to be paying attention. We're going to have a ribbon cutting there on the Performing Arts Center, and we'll open that with multiple performances of all of our students, and as well as the opening of our play for the spring.
So I imagine the students are really looking forward to getting in there and using those facilities.
Oh yes, very much so.
And the Franklin Tech side of the high school as well is now fully operational, and you've open house, people come see that as well.
Yeah, we've had a great start to the school year also on the Franklin Tech side, and integrating Franklin Tech into Joplin High School, and the partnership we have with Missouri Southern and Crowder College. We're able now to offer 43 dual credit courses through our current technical education programming, as well as our core programming at the high school, and 13 advanced placement courses. So, you'd be hard-pressed to find any high school in the country that offers as many higher ed opportunities as we do at Joplin High, so we're really proud of that fact as well.
So the new facility has really opened up these opportunities on the academic side for the teaching?
Yeah, we've been working hard on the partnerships. Obviously, we've had a great relationship with Crowder College and Missouri Southern, and we've been talking about this possible collaboration since the time I came in the district in 2008. So we've been having great dialogue around that, and finally figured out a way to do that. And frankly, the building is a beautiful building. We love the space, but we built that building with a vision for teaching and learning in mind, and really trying to integrate our career and technical education program into our high school, so that our kids get more exposure to kind of on-the-job training, so to speak, at the high school level, and get more experiences and more opportunities to explore careers that they're interested in.
So the Career Paths program is in full swing now. People are utilizing it.
It is, and I think that it's just going to get better. I mean, we're learning too, and our faculty and staff. I've just been very proud about how they've rallied around this concept, and working hard to create classes that are engaging and interesting to the kids, in various career paths of interest that the students have. And so it's been quite a challenge for them, I know, but we're going to continue to get better year by year as we continue to make tweaks to the system we have in place.
Okay. Well, continuing with academics, of course, you have 9 years or so of school before you reach the high school. Those youngsters who are coming in as kindergartners, any new approaches in dealing with the youngsters, preparing them for that big step when they get to high school?
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time talking about self-regulated learning, and working with kids as young as preschool, obviously all the way through high school, and focusing in on the self-regulation piece, which we try to do as adults to be effective. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? And really being able to answer those questions as we ask those. So we've had a real focus on that this year, and focusing in on writing communication, written communication, and that's been effective. But we also are very excited about our youngest kids, our 4-year-olds, our preschoolers, are going to get an opportunity probably in the next. We've expanded our preschool program quite a bit over the last 6 or 7 years, but we have an opportunity over the next several years to expand it even further with the construction of a new preschool someplace on the old Mercy site. So we've been very fortunate to have a great partnership with Mercy, and they've donated some additional land to us, which is going to make that construction project possible.
I know people have heard about that, and that project also involves working with the city perhaps on some fundings opportunities?
Yeah, there's several sources of funding. We'll be able to receive some funding from the federal government through early childhood special education. We'll be able to receive some funding from the city of Joplin, some CDBG funding that they've received, And then we also have some state funding as well that'll be a part of that project. And we put together a business plan that keeps that program self-contained, so there's no additional cost to the district associated with that program. So we operate it much like we do a food service or any other program. We set the tuition and operate the costs, operate the plant, that particular plant, in such a way that all the expenses are self-contained and it supports itself.
Well, some people might be curious as far as a need for that type of preschool program with the public education.
Sure. I think the primary thing for us is that we know that about 50% or less of our students come to us ready for kindergarten on that first day of school. And there's two pieces of that. We've got to do a much better job of educating our parents on what the expectations are when kids enter kindergarten. Kindergarten didn't even exist back in the 40s and 50s and into the 60s. And today, there's still districts, even in the state of Missouri, I believe, that have half-day programs, and we have a full-day kindergarten program. But the reality of it is that the expectations are much higher than they were 10, 15 years ago in terms of what kindergartners should know and be able to do. And so there's that piece of it. But we also know that there's a tremendous body of research that indicates that children who are in high-quality preschool programs do better not only in school but also in life as a whole. So it gets them off on the right foot, and we have a great preschool program currently, and we're looking forward to expanding that further.
Okay. So it's a program that you actually have in place. It's just making more opportunities for other students to become part of it then.
Correct. When I came, I think we had around 100 students in the preschool program. Right now we're servicing anywhere from 230 to 250, and we're looking to expand that programming from somewhere between 450 and 600 students. So it's a half-day program, either morning or afternoon, and so we're excited about getting up out of the ground with that project. And some people don't realize that the one facility that we have left post-storm that was relocated after the storm was our early childhood staff, and currently they're in a set of trailers behind McKinley Elementary School. So once we have the new construction complete of the new preschool, we'll get them back home too.
Right. Well, you mentioned facilities, and of course now that things have settled down, you have new buildings opening and so forth. People are curious what's happening to maybe facilities that have you shifted around, students are no longer in. You have a facilities committee exploring those possibilities?
Yeah, we've got a facilities committee that's been working hard over the last 3 months or so, gathering information and reporting back. And we actually have our last meeting tomorrow night, and we'll be presenting our findings to the committee, and the committee will be reviewing those findings and helping us make final tweaks to the report so that we can present that to the school board here in February. But we have a number of buildings that are obviously vacated after the storm. You have Dunawig, Duquesne, Old Washington School, obviously the Memorial Building, which we talked about, that will be home to administration services going forward, and several empty lots as well as a direct result of the storm. So we're just trying to get some feedback from the community on how to move forward with that, and we've done that in a number of ways, surveys as well as committee work and conversations we've had out in the community. So we're excited about focusing in on not only starting to look ahead a little bit more instead of always dealing in the present, and that's been a real challenge for us. I'd say up till about 3 months ago, I was still spending, and my team, probably 80% of our time on disaster recovery efforts, even 3.5 years after the storm, and that's scaled back some, although our finance department is still heavily involved with work related to not only the state audit, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but also the FEMA side of things. We still have a lot of paperwork, a lot of reports that we have to file with FEMA to ensure that we get all the funding that should be coming to the Joplin schools and coming from that funding source to help offset some of our losses. So we're looking forward to getting that wrapped up soon too.
And you mentioned the administration office is moving, so that will happen at the end of this academic year. You'll be moving into remodeling that building and moving into that.
Yeah, May 31st is our last day in the current facility, the old MoDOT facility. And one of the things that's a little bit confusing to folks are asking, why are you leaving? There was a rumor that we were only paying $1,000 a month rent, and that's true for the time being. But after May 31st, that monthly rent is going to go to more market rate, which is somewhere in the $35,000 a month range, and so it's pretty important that we get out of there because we don't feel like that's an expense we can afford. Number one, and number two, we have a good usable facility in Memorial, and the community's been very receptive to the idea of us moving over there and getting back into the heart of town and bringing our services to a more centralized level, so that so there's better access for students and families.
So there'll be a one-stop administration center,
Correct.
basically,
Yes,
for people who want to visit any administrator
Exactly.
in that type of position.
Correct.
So moving into that facility. Well, you mentioned earlier the state audit, and of course people are curious of that. I know you've had representatives from the state come visit with you, and just kind of explain the phases that you're going through in this process.
The process started initially with, if you'll recall, there was a petition that was being circulated to request the audit. And we had already had conversations with the state auditor shortly after the storm about the possibility of the state auditor coming down and doing a audit of the school district just based on the donations that were coming into the district at that time. And so we reached out to the state auditor and said, hey, you know, rather than expend $100,000 of local taxpayer dollars, would you mind just coming down and doing that audit anyway? And he graciously said yes to that opportunity and sent his team down. I want to say it was the end of July, and they were on site until just before Christmas, and where they completed their field work and then went back to their offices and finished up their reports. We got our initial findings from the audit probably about 3 weeks ago or so, and from there then we were able to, as part of the process, we're given the opportunity to respond to the audit findings, which gives them an opportunity to relook at their notes and establish whether or not there's really a finding there, or is there a real issue there that doesn't need to become a final finding.
Set up a dialogue, basically.
Correct. And so we've worked very, very well with them. They've been a great group to work with, and with any organization our size, there's always opportunities for improvement. Certainly there's some areas that we can improve on, many of which we already knew were areas we needed to shore up, but due to our circumstances, we just didn't have the means to do it at the time. So going forward, we'll get a chance to move forward with some of those things. The board met last night or yesterday afternoon actually, to discuss audit communications in closed session, which is what's been requested of the state auditor, that all this be kept private and confidential until such time he's able to come down and actually present the findings to the public himself. And so we had a good dialogue with the school board related to our responses to the audit and make sure they're okay with our audit responses. And then today we're going to submit those audit responses to the state auditor's office. They'll review their audit findings against our responses, and then issue potentially a final report, which will come to us probably in the next few weeks. We'll get a chance to look at that, and then we expect the state auditor to come down and make his public report on the audit findings sometime at the end of February, first part of March.
Now, when you say audit, people think about dollars and cents and money, but an audit goes beyond just looking at the financial columns. I mean, it's a pretty extensive look at the school district.
It really is. You know, I mean, they took a deep and broad look at the school district, which we really appreciated. I mean, it's much deeper and broader than the typical audit. We have an annual audit every year.
Your financial audit.
Our financial audit, where they look at our books and make sure everything's on the right track. You know, they really look at processes and procedures and are things squaring up the way they're supposed to be squaring up, and looking for areas to improve efficiencies and improve operations to ensure that there's no opportunities for money to disappear or you know, just to protect the district and taxpayers. So certainly that's something we're all about too, and feel really good about the work that's happened, and looking forward. We in fact have already implemented a number of processes that they recommended in response to their audit findings already. So we're already making some corrections in some areas that we feel like we needed to shore up anyway, and so we're getting after that too from a process and procedure standpoint. But I look forward to getting that audit out in front of the community and answering any questions that they may have related to the audit.
So once the audit comes out, there's that follow-up stage of actions to be taken, and you know,
Correct.
that it's not just we've read it, okay, put it on the shelf.
Right.
It's a fun
Yeah, and actually the state auditor he'll come back. His team will come back at some point in the future, probably next 9 to 12 months, just to follow up and see how we did with their recommendations and whether or not we were able to follow up with the recommendations they had. And I think it's important too. I mean, some of the things are from a recommendation standpoint, they're not things that are not in many cases things that are required by law. They're just best practices or recommendations based on their past experience, which may not be reflective of our past experience or our theories about how we move forward as well. So I think it's going to be a good thing. It's been a good process for us to go through, and I think the community certainly should appreciate the work the state auditor's office has done and what his team has done to help us basically right the ship after the storm and get things headed back in the right direction, so that we have everything in place that we need to have in place to ensure that we're being held accountable for all the things that need to be done in the right kind of way.
Continuing to plan for the future, as you were mentioning, and
exactly.
working together. Well, looking at the future, I know there's always been talk about growth in Joplin and post-tornado growth and so forth. Your feelings about the population of the schools, the potential for growth, what you have in this community.
We've been very fortunate. We were blessed. After the storm, we were told by FEMA, based on their experience, to lose about a third of our student body, based on the disaster zone and their past experience. We worked really hard as a school community to ensure that we didn't lose our families, and we're proud that when we opened our schools in August of 2011, that we still maintained 95% of our student enrollment at that point, which was really a miracle in and of itself, and we did a lot of work around that. Since that time, we've been continuing to show growth each and every year, and we're very, very close to being at our pre-storm enrollment numbers right now. So that's the good news, and I anticipate if the growth continues, we're growing by 100 to 150 students a year right now. If that happens again this next year, we'll certainly be past our pre-storm enrollment and tracking forward as a district. And when I got here, I want to say that we were somewhere around 72 or 7,300 students in the Joplin schools, and day of the storm we were a little over 7,600 kids, and today we're right at about that same number, and I think we'll probably surpass 7,700, maybe pushing 7,800 students when we start school again this next fall. So we're definitely in growth mode, which creates some challenges. We built the high school for growth. We built our middle schools for growth. The new elementary schools, we actually went from 11 elementary schools down to 13 elementary schools down to 11, and with some consolidations of Dunawig and Duquesne, and consolidation of Emerson and Irving, and so we really didn't gain that much square footage at the elementary school. So we still have some space issues there that requires careful monitoring, and we'll have to make some decisions related to that in the future as well. But it's something we're keeping close tabs on. But we feel good that the families are coming back, and our growth is there again, and we're moving forward, which I think is a tribute to the community as a whole.
Well, I know there financial challenges are there for everyone, school districts, colleges, university, anyone deals with public funding and so forth. There have been some concerns dealing with the funding tying into the TIF operations we had in Joplin, and the school district being a part of that package.
Yeah, we're struggling. There's no question about that. After the storm, we took a good hit to our assessed valuation, which drives our local tax revenue, and but at the same time, we maintain a large percentage of our student body, which means we still have to staff, have to keep on X number of teachers and provide, bus transportation and services, all the other services that are part of that. So we had the depressed assessed valuation, and then we also had to face in addition to natural disaster and economic disaster at the same time, tackle that head on, and then layer the TIF on top of that. Certainly has created some challenges for us, but we have a great relationship with the city of Joplin. This wasn't, the challenges we have now as it relates to TIF, isn't anything that I think that anybody intended to have happen. It's just, we're all in uncharted territory at this point, and just trying to figure out how to move forward as a community so that we're serving our children, serving our senior citizens, serving all our adults, serving our community in a variety of capacities, and all the things that people want to have happen. I still think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here in Joplin, and so long as we're communicating well and working together to solve problems created by, for example, the TIF issue that we're currently faced with, it's just another obstacle to be overcome. I think we'll figure that out.
So when it comes to the financial aspects, you have to still watch the dollars and cents closely, the tight budgeting from the district.
And it's been that way for a number of years. Right. And one of the things I'm really proud of is we've increased our in-classroom expenditures, what we spend in the classroom, by over 4% over the last 7 years since I've been here, and decreased administrative costs by a little over 3.5%. So we're putting the dollars where they belong in the classroom, and we watch the pennies really closely. And we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We do make mistakes, but when we do make a mistake, we try to back up and do it right. And this is an area that we as a community, when we talk about specifically about TIF, I think that if we could would have all had a crystal ball at the time, maybe we would have handled it differently, but we didn't. And we thought we were doing the right things, and we were working together to try to problem solve through that issue. It didn't work, and now's an opportunity to back up again. hold hands together again, figure it out, and move forward as a community. It is a challenge, no question about that. For us, especially, we're getting hit right now by about $800,000 a year that we're losing to the TIF that we wouldn't have lost otherwise, and it's just a matter of figuring out how to make that right and move forward collectively as a community to support our kids in their education.
Well, you mentioned earlier working with FEMA and funding and so forth, and the funding that the government gives for projects isn't a check, here you spend it. There's a whole process and basically kind of a reimbursement system for handling that.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that's really created some confusion, we had to, if you'll recall, a number of months ago, I want to say August time frame, had to go out to banks and ask for a loan. And really what it was a bridge loan. I think it was $42 million, if I remember correctly, to offset costs that we had to incur now in order to bill FEMA later to get the reimbursement we needed. So in essence, we don't have that kind of money in the bank as a school district, and so we had to borrow some money in order to finish the projects and complete the project worksheets so that we could submit them to FEMA and then get reimbursed. And so the reimbursement doesn't come on the front side, it comes on the back side. So that made it really hard for us in our particular situation just because of the magnitude of the losses that we suffered and as a school district. And that's an anomaly in the disaster world, having as many schools hit as hard as we were. So it created a little bit of a challenging scenario for us. But we worked through that and continue to work through that. FEMA's been great to work with. We continue to have a great relationship with them, and our at the state level, SEMA, State Emergency Management Agency, that we work with primarily now, has been fantastic as well. So very responsive. They understand our situation is very different and have been over backwards to help us within the guidelines and parameters that they have to work within to get us our dollars as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge, but certainly not anything I was taught when I was in college, and it wasn't in a textbook anywhere.
Not a school district.
But we learn day by day, and we've learned a lot that I hope we never have to use again, quite frankly.
Now, some of those funds from FEMA have helped with the safe rooms in the school district, and I want to make sure we talk about that today because we're, of course, recording in the winter, but you're heading into the spring season. You'll have safe rooms throughout most of the district by the time the spring storm season approaches this year. Yeah,
we should have. I think that the only safe room that won't be completed by the time storm season gets here will be the safe room at Columbia Elementary School. We had some challenges with the site there that delayed us getting out of the ground with that particular project, but it's underway now. So yeah, we'll have 15, 16 safe rooms, community safe rooms across the district that will be available for community use 24/7. For more information about that, they can go out to our website and find out how that process works. But we have some great volunteers community-wide that stepped up and said they'd be there to unlock and monitor the safe rooms after school hours, and very blessed to have FEMA's support. The funding that came in to support the construction of the safe rooms, I want to say it was in excess of $20 million in federal and state funding that made those safe room projects possible. So very pleased to have those. Certainly gives our parents and kids a peace of mind while they're at school during the school day if the sirens were to go off. To be able to just go into a gymnasium and sit quietly on the bleachers and wait for the storm to pass is a very different scenario than when you and I grew up and you had to sit in the hallways with your hands over your heads. And one of the things we learned in our storm, that hallways aren't a safe place to be in an EF5 tornado. And to have FEMA rated EF5 rated tornado safe rooms in this community, the magnitude that we do, is really a blessing that you really can't put a dollar figure on.
So the education aspect of letting the public know about access, that can be found out through the website, and communicating with the public now that we have these facilities.
And if they're close to a school building and they want to learn more about the FEMA safe room, certainly our building principals would be happy to visit with any community members that may have questions about how that operates and how they get access during a storm. So we're really happy and very blessed to have those available to our community members.
Right. And speaking of communication, of course, you have the website, you have Facebook, a number of ways that you're reaching to the public. We have, I think we've shown your website address, you have Facebook. Communication nowadays is very important for the school district.
It really is. There's a lot of information that gets put out there, and as you know, news today is very different than it was 20 years ago, even 5 to 10 years ago. We're in a 24/7 news cycle, and getting correct information, accurate information is really important. So we have several things. things. In addition to our Facebook page and Twitter account and our website, we also have a real or rumor blog. So if you hear a rumor about the schools that you'd like clarification on, there's always the opportunity to contact me directly and say, hey, I heard this, can you give me more information? And if I hear that from more than a few people, we'll put out a rumor blog and explain what was said and what the truth is related to that particular issue. So always happy to do that. We're doing more reaching out. In fact, tonight I'm meeting with a small group of parents that have some concerns that I've been monitoring on Facebook and social media, invited them to come to the table to talk about some of their concerns. And so there's really, I still believe there's still a great need for face-to-face communication. So those opportunities present themselves, just like with our facilities committee. If people want to get involved in the schools and learn more about what's going on, there's opportunities. So if they want to reach out to me and contact me, let me know they're interested in being involved in some of the things we have going on, we'll plug folks in. We've always been very open to the idea of having people involved in decision making, and happy to get more input from the community.
So you don't have to have a child in Joplin Schools to participate and be involved in these programs.
Absolutely not. We have grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, community members, business leaders, and others that serve in various capacities in the Joplin Schools, and we need that input. It's really important to us so that we know that we're headed in the right direction. And I'm one that's always believed that the more perspectives you have, the better decisions you can make. And that's a challenge when you can't get people to the table. So the doors are wide open, and if anybody would like to be a part of any of those planning processes, feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to plug them in where we can.
Great, and they can find out your contact information through those websites or Facebook pages that we have mentioned as well. Briefly on the educational aspect, we talked at the beginning of the program talking about standards of excellence and trying the school district is continuing to monitor your goals and what you want to do in the classrooms and with the ultimate graduation of those students at the end of the year.
Yeah, and one of the things I think it's really important, as we monitor the progress of our students, when I came to Joplin in 2008, our graduation rate, our 4-year on-time graduation rate was probably in the 65 to 67% range. We're looking at a 4-year on-time graduation rate this year, somewhere in the 83 to 87, 88% range this year, which is a vast improvement. But at the end of the day, I think the thing that people care about the most is are we graduating high-quality students? And I'd argue that we are. I think that it's pretty obvious by the colleges that our kids are getting into, the highly competitive colleges our students are getting into, as well as the results that they're getting on industry-recognized credential testing that they do, our ACT testing. We have kids that are just blowing the lid off of that every year. And we've got a lot of great things happening in the schools. And one of the things we're doing different this year, one of the questions I always get is, I shouldn't say always, but often hear, and one that I don't have an easy answer for is, when kids graduate, can they read, write, and do math on grade level? I think it's a pretty important question to be able to answer. And just the state assessments and the national assessments that are out there really don't give us a clear picture of that. So we're assessing our seniors this year in reading as they graduate, and we actually did a test of that test of the test, I guess, so to speak, here this past month, and we'll be continuing that and monitoring that. But just having a benchmark so that we can say, okay, our X percent of our seniors are reading at the 12th grade level. I think that's an important fact that you have to have because people want to know, can kids read when they graduate? And I think that's an answer we're going to be able to give them. But feel very confident. We have some highly talented kids that are going off and doing some amazing things when they graduate high school. And with the advanced placement and dual credit opportunities that we have for our kids, we can really push those kids that are high performers, and then kids that want to go on and be a part of career and technical education programming. There's all kinds of opportunities for them as well. So there really truly is something for everybody in Joplin, and opportunities for adult programming too. If there's adults out there that are interested in being in an adult class, we have adult programming as well through FTC. So there are lots of opportunities in the Joplin schools. They just need to, again, go out to our website, and if they want to get involved in some of those things, contact me directly, and I'll certainly put them in touch with those folks who can help them out.
Great. Well, Dr. Huff, we've talked about quite a bit in this program today, and I appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and updating our viewers.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And I'd like to thank you, the viewers, for joining us this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. Hope you can join me again next week at the same time on this station. We'll see you then.